Hi, time for another camera video. This video is entitled My First Leica, and one of the reasons why I wanted to share this video with you is because I'm an avid vintage camera user and collector for the past 3 years, but I don't have an infinite budget, and basically Leicas have always been something that I could never justify or afford, especially the Leicas that everybody knows about, which are the Leica rangefinder cameras. So for example, Leica M3 or the Leica M6, or even the older sort of 1954 screw thread mount Leicas, like the 3. For some reason they command a huge price, and I think it's because collectors want them, so the price is really inflated. I mean, they're great cameras, don't get me wrong, but I can never afford to pay thousands of pounds for a Leica with a lens, and I can't justify it, not at this stage anyway. So there's one way to get hold of a Leica without spending a fortune, because essentially any camera is all about the lenses really, and Leica is famous for its incredible lens quality. So I was looking around on eBay and I came across Leica SLR cameras. So in fact one of the first SLR cameras that Leica ever made was called the Leicaflex. So I was looking around and I came across this particular one, which was the Leicaflex SL2. I believe this is from 1974. And it's one of the last purely mechanical Leica SLR cameras ever made, before they partnered with Minolta to produce electronic shutter cameras, which were more like a combination of Leica and Minolta technology together, which I didn't really fancy because I could just buy a Minolta. I picked this up incredibly cheaply. Now, I don't know if you can see in the video, but this is a pretty well-used Leicaflex body. It's got a few dents. In fact, it looks like it's been hit somewhere here and it's been dropped at some point. And also the self-timer has been blanked out, so I think whoever used it had problems with the self-timer and decided to get rid of it. So, and to be honest, I don't really use self-timers on mechanical cameras that much, or if at all. So, more importantly, this came with a lens which was called the Leica SLR 28mm f2.8 wide-angle lens. I love street photography, and I think the 28mm wide-angle lens would be very suited for doing street photography. I know it's not ideal for portraits, but I've seen examples of people using it for portraits too. Anyway, so I picked this up for incredibly cheap price. I mean, I can't even tell you how cheap this was. There's no way, I mean, I basically paid for the entire kit here, less than the price of just buying a body. So I took a gamble. On eBay you always take a gamble, and I have a guy that basically a camera repair specialist near where I live. A young man who operates a business called PPP Repairs, and he always services my cameras and fixes any problems with them. So I took it to him straight away, very excited. I thought, can I get this working? You know, is there any problems? So he checked it out for me, he cleaned it, he fixed a few bits and pieces, lubricated the shutter, he fixed the counter. Unfortunately, he couldn't fix the meter was damaged, but it wasn't a big loss for me because, to be honest, with those old cameras, the light meters never really work properly, even if they were functioning. So even if you put the right battery in, I've found in previous experience it's never 100% accurate because the technology is like 50 years old, and I'd rather just handheld light meter externally, which I've been doing with other cameras that I own. So I didn't see that as a big, huge problem. And for the price, for what I got this camera for, I didn't think it was a huge issue anyway. I haven't tried it yet, so this is the video just to tell you about my first experience of owning a Leica. One of the things about this camera, so it's got a purely mechanical shutter, and it goes from 1 second and bulb all the way up to 1/2000th of a second. Just listen to the shutter sound, it's unbelievable. It's really dampened, so the mirror is really dampened. If I go to one of the slower speeds, you can hear a bit more about how the slower speeds timing mechanism works. You can hear it's quite a unique sound. And if I go to the 1 second one, it's incredible, really. And the lens is pretty good. There's a small little scratch on the front element, but I read a lot of reviews that say small scratches on the front element aren't really an issue. If it were on the rear element, it might be a problem. I put a filter on it, a skylight filter, and apparently that reduces any problems anyway. But I read a lot about this lens too, and apparently it's quite a desirable lens amongst reportage and street photographers. This camera, the history about this camera is that in the 50s, Leica dominated rangefinder space, and they had, all the professional photojournalists owned Leica M body cameras and Leica lenses, but they were being threatened by Japanese with single lens reflex cameras. Obviously, the advantage of single lens reflex cameras is that you can look through the lens, and it's a far easier experience to take pictures, although it's a bit heavier. So Leica decided they're going to invest to create their single lens reflex camera, and it was called the Leicaflex. This is the third and last iteration of that all mechanical Leica built, Leica designed Leicaflex camera. In fact, I read somewhere that those cameras were so well engineered and actually cost Leica money to make each one, and they couldn't justify selling it for the cost price, so they sold each camera at a loss, hoping that the lenses would make up for any loss in the camera bodies that they sold. And in fact, they decided by the end of 1974 that it was just not worth it. So they had that partnership with Minolta, and they produced the R series cameras afterwards. But nowadays, everyone knows Leica for its rangefinder cameras, and I don't think many people look for these cameras, hence why they're still affordable. If you look on eBay or other marketplaces, or just look around in your local areas. The interesting thing is, it's the same quality of lenses that you would get on your rangefinder camera systems. So you've got the Summicron, the 50mm, the Elmarits, the wide angles, some of the telephoto lenses. They all are the same build quality, same optical quality, much cheaper price. So if this lens was available for the Leica M, which it is, it would be 3 or 4 times the cost. So I'm really keen to try and see if that lives up to the expectations from a lens quality perspective. So yeah, so the advice is really, if you are looking to get into Leicas and you can't afford and you can't justify spending the thousands of pounds or dollars into a Leica rangefinder system, think about getting a Leicaflex SLR camera with one or more of the lenses that came with it. And I think you'll be pleasantly surprised at the build quality, and the shutter system is exactly this. In fact, the guy who repaired this for me, or CLA'd it if you like, he told me that that shutter mechanism sounds exactly the same as some of the early M rangefinder cameras. That beautiful dampened shutter sound, it's very similar to the Leica M. The body, it's very simple design, it's refined, there's not too many controls, it's all about getting you as a photographer to think about things rather than too many gizmos in the camera. So yeah, so that's it really. I hope you enjoyed the video, and next time around, hopefully once I shoot my first roll of film with it, I'll be able to share some of those images. Thanks very much.